Guys, welcome back to Iris After Hours. I'm here with the amazing Todd Lugli here on the couch. And Todd is an amazing missionary slash businessman slash pastor slash dad and father and director of an amazing nonprofit called Happy Kids International.
That's right.
Running mainly out of Haiti, hey?
Correct.
Yeah. And so welcome to the show, Todd.
Thank you.
Great to have you here. Now, Todd, let's start off with your life. How long have you known the Lord? When did this all start? Like you're an amazing missionary businessman, and we want to hear a lot about that. But where did the God connection start for you?
Oh my gosh, we'd be here all next 30 years.
Yes, it's going to be a 5-hour podcast.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you asked me that, and because maybe that's the best place to start, because my wife and I just got back 2 weeks ago from Adelaide, Australia.
Yeah, I know. I used to live down there.
Yeah, I know you did. And so 30 years, it would have 1991, November of 1991, or November of 1990, my dad and I flew into Melbourne.
Yep.
Did I say it right?
Yep.
Melbourne, Australia.
Come on.
I was not a Christian. I was actually a drug addict. I was what they call a geographical mover. So every time I wanted to get sober, I would go somewhere new.
Okay.
So between 16 and 20 years old, I lived in 18 states and 4 countries.
Oh my gosh.
And so my dad had just separated from my mom, and I decided I was going to try to go straight again. And I called my dad and said, "Hey, I'm going to go to Australia. Sell my car. I'm going to Australia. I knew some guys that played rugby, and one of them lived in Australia, so I'm going to go to Australia. And do you want to go with me?" And he surprised me, and he said yes, because he had just left my mom, and he was depressed. And we got on a plane and went to Australia, and with backpacks, and we flew to Melbourne, and then we flew into Adelaide.
Yep.
To start our walkabout.
Come on.
Said that right? Yeah. I'm trying to use all my Australian here.
Come on.
I scored some weed there in the marketplace, and I say that because that's the only thing I remember.
Yeah.
And we got on a bus and we went to Aries Rock.
Oh yeah, Aries Rock.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And I was a little hungover, but my dad was very fit. He played rugby also.
Oh no way.
He played till he was almost 75, and he climbed to the top of the rock.
Yep.
And he was going to commit suicide. He was very depressed. He did not know the Lord. Neither did I. And I did not know that.
This is a crazy story.
Okay.
This is crazy.
And he had a God moment when he was on top of the rock.
No way.
Instead, but she did not share that either. And so I eventually got to the top of the rock, and we went on our journey. And about 2 weeks later,
I've been at the top of the rock.
Yeah, have you?
Yeah.
I guess you
it's sort of wavy like this on top.
I guess you can't go up now.
I'm not sure.
No. They told
Probably
us
not. Right.
When I get to the full circle. So like 3 weeks ago, they closed it.
Oh, today, right?
Yeah. So you can't go up anymore. Anyways, 3 weeks later, my dad went home, went to church, got saved, started dating my mom again, and they got married in the church.
Yes.
A year later, they're still married today.
Yes.
They've been married 50 plus years now.
Oh my gosh.
And my dad's 80 and my mom's 76. Isn't that
beautiful?
Wonderful? Well, I went on to New Zealand.
Yeah.
In August of, so it would have been December of 1991, I had, in New Plymouth, New Zealand, I hit rock bottom and came out of a bar and passed out. And the next morning I woke up paralyzed from my neck down.
What?
And remember saying, I can't even kill myself, right? I had a lot of issues, and I had a God experience, and I saw the hand of Jesus come from heaven, and I heard the voice of Jesus say, "I love you, take my hand," which my response was, "You can't love me," because I had an issue with the fact that I'd sold drugs to kids. And I just couldn't forgive myself for that. And I was about 168 pounds.
Oh, very thin.
I'd used a lot of, I was just really abusive to myself because I couldn't accept myself because of the things I'd done. And and I sat there motionless on the beach there in New Plymouth, New Zealand. And but once again, because of the love of our God, I saw the hand of Jesus, and I heard the voice again say, "I love you. Take my hand." And I looked up, and I said, "I don't know how, but there's no way you'd say it twice if you didn't mean it." And I'd grown up in the church. I'd made the choice to leave
Right.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Because the only Jesus I knew was the church.
Mm-hmm.
I'd been in church since I was 6 years old. And I was a hyperactive kid, and I got in a lot of trouble. I slept 4 hours a night till I was 12. I mean, I was a hyperactive kid.
4 hours.
I was born. I was the original Ritalin kid. I was the test baby for Ritalin. I was in the 70s, before it was invented. My mom took me to San Francisco. I was the experimental test kids, one of the test kids for Ritalin. When you go back to the original test, you'll see my name. Because I was born hyperactive. And before that was a label.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was born just north of San Francisco, and where all the hippies moved after the 60s. And God created me that way. I never crawled. I went from laying on my belly to walking.
Wow.
So I never had eye-hand coordination. And so I had some issues. I had no eye-hand coordination because I never learned to crawl.
Crazy.
Yeah, so there's a lot of pieces that all tie into that. So I had a lot of rejection issues as a kid growing up. I had to learn a lot of skills and things. I didn't have those. And so I had a lot of those, I had a lot of issues as a kid. And so those were all going through my mind when I was laying there. And when I said yes to Jesus, I felt a warm shower, a golden shower, just go from the top of my head. I felt love from the top of my head. Just it was just like somebody just like the right on top of my head, and it just showered over my body all the way down to my feet. And as it did, I began to feel life. I literally was. I felt paralyzed from my collarbone down. I don't know what had happened, but when I drink tequila, I black out when I drink tequila. And from my neck down, as that gold shower touched me, the glory of God. That's what I believe it was. Now that I'm all educated and stuff,
Spiritually savvy.
Oh, yes. You can keep it. And it just, as it would go down my whole body, it's like every cell in my body was rejuvenated. And began to feel things. And like every good...
And you got feeling back.
Oh, absolutely. And it began to shake.
In that moment.
It was just like, in a copy machine, that light, and that's, we went, and I was just back up, and I was life again. And that every good Italian boy, I looked up at the father and said, now, if you can get me back to Los Angeles in 2 weeks, I'll serve you the rest of my life. Now, I had no money, and I had no ticket from New Zealand back to LA. And
Dad was gone by this stage too.
Dad was gone. He'd gone back, about a month and a half before. Yeah. So I had no relationship with my parents. So I was disowned at 18 because of the drugs and selling. I was muling dope for the Hells Angels. I grew up very close to where the Hells Angels originated in Northern California. I grew up in motorcycle culture and all of that. So yeah, that's a whole different story. So there was not much relationship there. In fact, that trip with my dad probably was the most time I had ever spent with my dad in most of my life, as far as two men go. And so, in fact, I just looked at those pictures when I got back from Australia, and I'm like, wow. I mean, it looked like we had a good time. I don't remember a lick of it, but it looked like we probably had a really good time on that trip, and it made me wish I would have, really remembered more of it. And so all I remember is I know the story now because I researched it, but I hitchhiked up to Auckland, and somehow somebody paid my $17 exit tax, because that's how they did it back then, and I ended up in Los Angeles. 2 weeks later, I woke up on a friend's couch. I had a friend from a Christian school that I went to in Sacramento, named Roger Terry. I remember he had woken up on a couch, and here's Roger. Todd, wake up! I'm like, what am I doing here? And he's like, you're on my couch, and you're in Los Angeles. I'm like, you got to remember, I went from being stone cold drunk to a God experience to being woken up on a couch in Los Angeles, right? So I'm like, am I in a dream? Am I dead? That's how kind of I remember that euphoric feeling there. And I'm like, well, where am I? What's going on? And he's like, you called me from LAX. You said God saved you, set you free, you're sober, and you have nowhere to go, and you're at LAX. My wife says, you have to go. You stink. You're on the couch, and you haven't woken, you've gotten up and used the bathroom, and that's it, basically, for the last 2 weeks. And I'm putting you on a Greyhound bus and sending you to Sacramento.
You've been on the couch for 2 weeks, you didn't even know it?
So I've been that out of it for 2 weeks. Because, think about it.
You must have been exhausted.
I was just, I mean, my body was just recuperating. It was just...
Oh, yeah.
I mean, obviously it had to be like angels must have walked me through Auckland Airport, airplane. I mean, how would they even put me on an airplane?
Gosh, that's amazing.
Isn't that amazing? And so, I mean, I don't even, it's just a miracle. And
then you went up to Sacramento.
So this is the really cool part. And this is just the beginning piece. And I can't even give it, I'll give you just full circle, and then we'll be done with that. But, so get this, Nathan, you're going to love this. So, he puts me on Greyhound, and I get to Sacramento. I walk up to my parents' house, and I knock on the door. My dad answers the door at my mother's house, which the last I had heard, my dad had just left and gone back to America, but I had no clue that he'd gotten saved or that he was with my mom. Wow. And so here's my dad. He answers the door, and he's literally like a shining new person. Like, my dad is a Class A driver, successful. He's a Trump. My dad is like Donald Trump.
Right.
That is what he's like.
Real go-getter.
He's a choleric type A, not real smiley, happy-go-lucky, just kind of like
ruler gifting.
He watches television, he does business, he's doing 4 things at once, he doesn't waste a minute. And my dad answers the door, he's smiley, happy, glowing. What are you doing? Wow. I'm like, what are you doing? Wow. That is exactly what it was like. And I'm dropping my bags, and I imagine it was like the prodigal son returning home.
It's what I'm thinking of. It feels like it's the prodigal returning.
Because and I never thought of it that way before, but I'm sure that's what it was.
I've totally got that picture in my head right now.
And he's like, I came back to him. I came back home, and I went to church, and I got saved, and I've been dating your mom, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I got saved, I got healed, I got delivered. I don't use drugs anymore. I don't want drugs anymore. And he looks at me and he goes, well, we've heard that before, because I got
you
saved
had a
and
crazy history of that.
I got saved and set free in jail. I got saved and set free in rehab. I got saved and set free at Christian camp. And so and it's okay. But my dad had never got saved and set free. And so that's okay. But my dad was a new man. And we went in the house and my mom was there and we were eating together. And my mom looks at me and she says, "So what are your plans?" And I said, "Well, I was kind of hoping I could come home." And she goes, "Oh, your dad hasn't even come home yet." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And so my mom picked my mom and dad met, and she said, you can go to counseling by yourself once a week. We'll go to counseling together once a week, and I'll go to counseling once a week, and then after about 8 months, then we can get married, and then you can move home, because they had never had a Christian wedding. My mom got married as a senior in high school, 17 years old, with my sister in her belly. And my dad and his sister went in Reno. And after they got married at a little chapel, my mom went to the
Vegas wedding, hey?
Yeah.
Oh, not Vegas.
Well,
Nevada.
Nevada wedding. And my mom went to the arcade, and my dad and my aunt went to the poker table. Yeah. So my mom was going to get her Christian wedding this time.
Wow.
And she was sharing it just the other night with me about it. So long story short, I went and lived at a pastor's friend's house, and then 6 months later, I moved up to Seattle, and I'm to go to commercial diving school, and that's another story I won't go into. And I met my wife there, though, and Gina was an amazing believer, and she discipled me. We got married 5 months later.
No way. And was she a diver as well?
No, she was there planting a church.
All right.
With the couple that I was staying with.
No way.
Which was the daughter of the pastor that let me stay with him.
In Sacramento?
In Sacramento.
Wow. And where was this? Oregon, did you say? No.
Seattle.
Seattle.
Wow. And
wanted you to do commercial diving for work?
Yes, because when I was in Australia, before I went to New Zealand, I dived on the Great Barrier Reef. And when I did that, it was the first time that I felt peace underwater. Wow. And because of the hyperactivity and everything,
yes.
Part of my problem was I never felt peace and the busyness in my head. But when I was under the water for some reason, everything stopped.
I know, it's amazing, because it is so like that when you're under the water, and it's just, the sound is so
when I was
solid.
And so my dad was a nationwide builder and land developer. And so I learned construction growing up. So I could always get a job. That's why I wasn't like a typical drug addict. I could always work. So from age 12, I could frame a house. So
what?
So I could always build.
Wow.
I've always been able to build.
That's amazing.
I could just never hold down a job because I always got in trouble.
Because you've got to get it all square when you're framing your house. It's pretty tricky, isn't it?
Well, have you ever sheetrocked before?
Yeah.
You work with non-Christian sheetrockers. Usually they're speed freaks, meth addicts.
Oh yeah, they go fast.
Yeah. So that's the problem, is we always end up getting high, and so I'd get on jobs, I'd do fine until I'd get around the drug addicts, and then I would end up becoming a drug addict. So that's why I was a geographical mover so much.
You're getting away from the problem.
So I'd do fine, and then I'd start using again, right? So with commercial diving, I figured, well, I'll just live underwater. It was my solution for God. I figured, well, God, thanks for...
And God used it to find your wife.
And
to find Gina.
That's correct. And so I started going to commercial diving school. The guys started asking me to go to the bar after school. And I'd say, oh, my old lady would never let me do that. I'm going to hang out with Gina. And then Gina would teach me what the Bible meant. Because I knew I wasn't going to find who Jesus was at church. That didn't work the first time, right?
Yeah.
And so Gina, what she knew was the Word. And so we met, and I was so curious.
Wow.
So what she did was she taught me the Bible. And so we would spend hours. So curious, dude. I was so in love with Jesus. He healed me. I was so hurting, man. I had so much pain inside.
Yeah.
And and he took it away when he healed me, and all I knew was I was still carrying a joint in my wallet. I mean, I knew I wasn't gonna smoke it, but I had just known it for so long, you know, and I've just taken care of myself for so long, and the pain I've taken care of the pain for so long.
Wow.
And I carried that joint up to probably for a year after I was saved, and it was because it was up to about a week before I got married, and but I would get in the Word, and she would show me so much about who God was through the Word. That's why I'm like the church's job has got to be to teach the Word. I mean, that's why we got to go to.
That's a good word.
That's kind of like the only reason.
Come on, that's a T-shirt right there. The church's job is to teach the Word.
I mean, if you go to church and they don't teach the Word, then it's a social club, right?
Yeah.
Well, there's better social clubs than church. Seriously. So
That could be a T-shirt too.
yeah. And so it's kind of like so what would happen? We'd get together, man, and we'd just end up spending hours together. Like, well, what about this scripture? And like, what about this scripture? And what about this scripture? And she'd like, well, this is because of this scripture. And then and so like you know how some people are like only in the New Testament, and like, well, Gina, she'd gone through Bible school and everything, and so she'd be like, well. I'd be like, well, why does it say this in the New Testament? And she'd go, well, that's because of this in the Old Testament. And so then then I'd be in the Old Testament, like, well, if it says this, well, she'd be like, that's a prophetic word, and that happened, it actually came to pass in the New Testament. And then we go back into the New Testament. And so like, I got this like front row seat of Jesus.
Wow.
In the Bible, my first year really being saved, and so it instead of going to bars with the guys after school, right? So God He knew I was going to need that. I mean, He couldn't have set me up in a better way. And at the same time, when I would go to school in the morning, and we'd be in the classroom for 3 or 4 hours. Well, because I was already familiar with construction, I was just really learning how to dive.
Yep.
And so. Every once in a while, when I need a reminder, I'd never welded before. So mostly in commercial.
So you can do underwater welding?
Yeah, commercial diving is primarily underwater welding.
Wow.
So
on oil rigs and stuff like that? Or?
Yeah, so oil rigs and dock building like piers and things like that.
Yeah.
So every once in a while, and it was always like when I'd be going through a temptation or something. Every once in a while, I'd forget to ground or I'd get in the wrong position, and I'd get a little shock. And when you're welding underwater, if you get a little shock or you don't ground right, your feelings get pulled out of your teeth, things like that. So you just get, and then they just cut the power from up top because you're a student, so they're watching you really close. Yeah. And it was always a very funny situation. I'd find myself thinking, you know, about naked ladies or something, you know, that could be old behavior, and all of a sudden I'd find myself getting shocked or tripping over a cord and getting, because I'd move out of my grounded space or whatever, I'd get a little shock and I'd be like, oh, thank you, okay, Lord, thank you, I got it, okay, you know. But for the most part, I was in a safe place. Yeah. For that first year back into the world, you know, and the Father just knew I needed that. Yeah. So now coming 30 years later, my wife, who pretty much did not travel with me, I then dedicated my life. It took 2.5 years to get my mind restored. I used a tremendous amount of LSD, and crystal meth was my drug of choice due to the fact of my hyperactivity.
Back in the day,
because I'm hyperactive, because I'm wired that way, like I can drink as much caffeine as I want anytime and go to sleep. Everything is different, opposite on me.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. So for how I'm built,
uppers
bring me down,
make you
calm.
Yeah.
And so so crystal meth doesn't affect me like other people. Same with strychnine, which is rat poisoning. So strychnine is what they use in LSD.
Oh, is it?
If it's not natural LSD. So cheap LSD, they use strychnine. A certain amount causes is like a dietary, so it creates a speed effect. And so just like huffing or crack is a substitute for the real stuff of like free base and things. I'm sorry for the drug course.
This is education. It's education.
Sorry for the drug education.
Come on, someone needs this. Someone's going to minister to people.
So what happens is that when I was living in the streets and stuff, and I just used whatever I could. So when I couldn't find meth, I would use strychnine. So because I didn't care about myself, I wanted to die anyways. So I had really damaged my brain a lot, and so the word says in Romans, by the renewing of your mind, right?
Yeah.
So I was very slow. My brain was really damaged, and the first 2 years of my recovery of being a Christian, the big joke about Todd was, if Todd remembered, if you told a joke, it usually took a couple minutes for him to respond and laugh. And so if you heard him laughing down the hall a couple minutes later, it's just because it just finally came.
It finally dropped.
Yeah.
The penny dropped.
So we if you're an alcoholic, we call that like a dry drunk. Some people they'll act drunk the rest of their life even though they don't drink.
Right.
Because they're just damaged that way. And so for me, I had just really damaged my brain, and so I was very slow in processing, and it took about 2 years of scripture just memorization, being around the word, before I found that I was able to process faster and faster.
Wow, that's interesting, isn't it? The word literally healed you.
It literally did. And it was about 2 years when the Lord came to me and said, I want you to go to Bible college, and put a call in my life. And I said, I didn't like high school. I really don't think I'm going to like going to any kind of school. I got kicked out of 4 nursery schools, and I went to 4 high schools, and I just wasn't thrilled at all. And a friend of mine that I went to high school with went to a Bible school called Christ for the Nations, Dallas, Texas, and he managed to get through it. And so I said, well, if he did, then maybe I can do that one. So because it's all Bible, I said, I'll go check out Christ for the Nations. And sure enough, at that time, because I was so hungry for the Word, and it was all Bible. So it was 2 years. Gina and I had been married for 2 years at that point, and felt a call on our lives. So we moved to Texas, and I started going to Bible school. Gina worked so that we could afford for me to go.
What a woman! We should have her on this podcast, man.
Well, and I really want her to come.
Yeah, we're going to do another one with her.
Yeah, and she'd already gone to Bible school and everything.
Yes.
And she was not. She's Pentecostal, and she's much more rigid than I am. And Christ for the Nation, little charismatic, so she wasn't real thrilled about that. And so she was very happy to go to work, to be honest with you. And
that's funny.
Yeah. So I went to Bible school, and it was actually wonderful, and it really. And I thought it was important to mention that because I did mention all the drugs about the renewing of your mind, because it really made a huge difference. And at that point in time, that was really a real setting free time, and it was a new life. I mean, wow. Really, there was the old life was really over at that point.
Wow.
I wasn't identifying anymore at that point.
So it wasn't like you were close to on the edge of slipping back.
There was no more of who I was. It really was about who I was becoming and who God had called me to be. And at that point, we knew we were called to be missionaries. We knew that I never, from that point forward, looked or felt like I was called to do anything but to be a missionary, to go into the world and really to reach the unreached people of the world. And that brings me now back to Australia. So, because I know we're getting close to time, and I think this is fantastic. You're going to love this. So, because I didn't even know until I was sitting with our mutual friends, Daryl and Belinda Crawford.
Oh yeah, you went to see Daryl.
Yes,
I've done a podcast with Daryl.
Yes, I know you did.
So Daryl,
I know.
Did you go to the prophetic conference?
No, we flew in the day after because we went to Japan for a week,
right,
on business, and then we went and Daryl was going to join us in Japan, but couldn't because of his conference.
Right.
And then it's funny because Daryl was supposed to come to the U.S. and but he couldn't come to the U.S. because of the conference.
Yep.
And I said, I know we're supposed to be with you. Now we're going to get prophetic on everybody.
Come on.
So Daryl, our mutual friend Daryl Crawford, was scheduled to come to the U.S. for a prophetic conference in Dallas. It was I don't know what it's called, but it's an annual conference with Cindy Jacobs in around November 12th. And then come out here to be with us for what we called the launching into our new season, which was November 15th.
Mm-hmm.
And he called me around the 5th of November and said, you know what? I'm supposed to be in Australia during that time. That's the word of the Lord, so I'm staying in Australia. So on November 8th, Gina and I got an invitation to Japan, a celebration dinner for the first shipment of beef into Japan with a company that we're doing business with. And
that sounds interesting.
And that's something new that we're moving into this next year. And I knew that Gina and I were supposed to go to Japan. And so we're going to be on that side of the world. We're going to go to Australia.
Come on.
And I knew we were supposed to be with Daryl on the 15th. So I called Daryl and I said, you're not going to be in America. We're coming to Australia. And he said, great, coming to Australia. All right? And the Weatherlys, of course. Do you know Todd and Rachel Weatherly?
No.
Okay, there's ministry partners that they're with.
Yeah, right.
At Field of Dreams Church.
Yep.
Fantastic church. And so, this is amazing. So, Gina and I fly to Japan, and we are so blown away. We're honored. I mean, we're just there to be part of the 2 celebration dinners with HerdX, which is this amazing company from Texas. That's an ag tech company that we are investors in, that we're partnering with to export beef into Japan and China, hopefully
from the US.
From the US.
Yeah.
This is a future business that we are venturing into.
Yep.
With our new company, Expanse International, which in our next interview I'll be sharing with you about.
Come on.
So we're in Japan. We fly from Japan into Adelaide, and and when we're in Adelaide, we are with I'm sitting with Belinda, Daryl's wife, and I'm just the 2 of us, and we're talking, and I go, you know what's really interesting is that 30 years ago, it's hard to believe, but, well, it would have been 31 years ago.
You were in Adelaide with your dad.
November, 31 years ago, before I was a Christian, my life started in Adelaide.
Wow. Wow, that's crazy. Your life literally was saved.
And I wonder, at that time, I didn't know what month we were in Adelaide. And I didn't think of any spiritual significance. I had never thought about it And my wife has not, we've had 4 children, and wonderful kids. The youngest is 20 and the oldest is 26.
Wow.
Son and 3 daughters. And my last daughter is getting married. I mean, they're all married but one.
That's what's happening.
It's what's happening this weekend.
Oh.
And we planned it all so that at age 50, all of the kids would be out of the house, because I've always felt called to live our lives overseas, and I've always felt called to the unreached people.
Mm.
And in 1994, so that's 3 years after we got saved, me and my dad, my parents were in a horrible car accident.
What?
Where my dad was 68% burned and my mom was 50%. I'm not even going to start the story.
Wow, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go.
Yeah.
But they lived, and their life expectancy was not, definitely was not more than 15 years, but at the most would have been by now. Well, they're amazing people, and they both are very well still. But they've needed a lot of help through the years, and we've given them a lot of our lives, and I've given them a lot of my mission, and a lot of it's been healthy and a lot of it's been unhealthy. Let's just put it that way, and so my wife and I being together in Adelaide was very significant, because the reason we were in Adelaide was to celebrate the beginning of our new season together.
Yes, because your daughter's getting married,
And so they'll all. So
wow.
in the Word, it tells us that as husbands,
that's going to be 2020.
That's so. Yes.
Ooh.
So this is a great way to end this session here. So as fathers, according to the Word, our response, of course, we're always responsible for our families, but we're responsible for our daughters until we pass them to their godly husbands.
Yep.
And so as I pass my last daughter to her godly husband, and I take my wife now back, my friend that I lent to my children for the last 21 years, that I've traveled alone, that I've missed because I've worked around the world for the last 20 years, and I wanted to be with my wife, but she hasn't been able to travel with me. So to be able to go, so God took us as a gift.
Oh, and you were together.
To the place where I started with my dad as a lost person. He,
Yeah.
and we were able to celebrate the beginning of our new season with our friends, the Crawfords. And they prophetically acknowledged that with us, which Daryl was part of the birthing prophetically of Expanse.
Yep.
With me.
Oh, wow.
Which you don't know, but I'll share someday. And he was part, and that's a really big piece. He's a big part of my heart. And so Gina and I were able to celebrate the beginning of our new season of Expanse International, which is a business mission to the world, and with my wife as an apostolic prophetic team, as one heart, in the place where 31 years ago, God plucked me out of the pit.
Oh my gosh.
Right? With my father, where there was a soul tie that needed to be broken. First, he broke that soul tie with my dad, reconnected my heart with my wife, so that we can go into 2020 whole, together, ready to go.
Come on. Wow. And we are so excited to see what happens now.
Come on, it's all yours now, brother.
Come on. That's incredible.
How's that for a full circle?
Yes, that's amazing.
And so that's one of 50 things that I could share about in the last 9 months.
I know. We have got so much to go into.
This year.
And we'll do another podcast for sure very, very soon. And go into the depths of the rest of the journey with God, with Happy Kids.
I'd love to.
In Haiti and the whole business side of things and your entrepreneurial business and business and missions, which are so important. And there's many, many countries that you can only get to.
Yes.
If you have business and business savvy, because that's your key in to be a missionary in that country.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
Yeah. In fact, we are very excited about that because before, where I only utilized business just to fund our mission and that.
Yeah, because that's another thing. You can do business just to fund missions, or you can do business as mission.
But and I see what I see is I see this. It's a using. And what happens is it's kind of like it's like this, or it could be like this, you know.
Right.
And so when you're intimate, like when you're with your wife.
Yeah.
Actually, so this is beautiful. Okay. So can I do this with you?
Yeah.
Because I know you're not queer, and
Yeah.
I'm okay with this. So this is intimacy. Okay. So I love you in my heart.
Yeah.
Okay. And so like when I pray for you, I weep for you. Since I met you, and the word tells us that we're supposed to be kindred in heart.
Wow, yeah.
Kindred in spirit.
Yep.
Is what it says in different translations. So in some countries where intimacy has not been perverted, men still hold hands.
Yeah, like India.
In India,
Philippines.
well, that's because in those countries, they physically, it's against the law to be homosexual. So
Yeah.
so some of that's, we won't go there. So yes.
Yep.
So my spiritual son in Haiti, who's about 35 years old, Mark, him and I'll hold hands. We don't hold hands like this, but like it's very nice to be able to put my hand on his leg and not feel anything sexually weird about that.
Yeah.
I would never do that anywhere else, right?
Yeah.
So there is a intimacy here like this. Okay. So this is how I should feel when I am doing a business and blessing a ministry.
Wow.
But when I'm doing business to fund a ministry,
Yeah.
it's been like this.
Yeah, right.
And so in the past, so for 30 years, it's what can I do for you? Actually I got even a better. So the mob always had a relationship with the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
And the Catholic Church always happily received their blessings. Well, if the Catholic Church was really concerned about the soul of the mob, don't you think maybe they should have said, listen, we're really concerned about what you're doing, so we're not going to take your money, because it's more important to us that you understand that if you keep on killing people, you're not going to go to heaven no matter how many times you confess. So it is what happened to me in China when I went to China to pray for 5 days for a friend when I had a vision from the Lord. And he said, if you retire...
This is recently.
Yeah, this was 18 months ago. If you retire doing business because you have enough money to put in mutual funds and have passive income, because you're just you're a good enough businessman to do that, so you have enough saved up, then you're bearing your talent.
Wow.
And
interesting word.
You're no use to me. And I would have done that because I have daddy issues with business.
Right.
And that's why I would never go into business, because I never thought I could be Todd, transparent, honest, completely open-chested,
Wow, interesting.
win-win in business, because my dad couldn't be, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, that's a teaser. And so the father said, your second half of your life is going to be in the unreached people groups I promised you 28 years ago, and the only way you're going to get to them is by doing business with them. And if you go retire and just travel around as a missionary, because you're self wealth, you have all the money you need, and you're not going to go to churches anymore and raise those funds because you don't need to, and you're not going to do business anymore, then you're going to miss your call. You're going to miss it. And so I woke up screaming and said, then you have to fix my heart. And so I came back. I came back saying yes to God, and I met you. Yeah, that would have been November. So that happened to me in May. So I met you about six months later. And the Lord had been working on me, and a lot had been going on, and here we are now, 18 months later, ready to launch our company, and we restructured everything so that we're doing everything.
Oh my gosh!
So I understand now. I understand the difference, and so
it's amazing.
Yeah, it's very exciting, and it is. I understand it now. So
gosh, what a journey of learning and growth and healing and coming deeper into God you've been on, Todd. I'm just wondering, as we finish up, whether you could just pray over our listeners, because I'm sure there's many people that are on this journey that have come out of full-on stuff, or even hyperactivity as kids or whatever. But I just know there's a blessing that you can release.
Yes.
As you've journeyed through so much into the calling of God on your life, into being fruitful, having your kids, and you're still learning. Even now, you're still learning this whole new business model that's come after doing years of business. That you've got this new model that God's giving you for 2020. So just to release the new and that if we need to lay anything down, that we lay it down and we take on the new that God is showing us now for 2020.
Yes, absolutely.
Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
So Heavenly Father, we just thank you. Loving Father.
Yes, God.
You are a loving Father, and you have created us. You have created us.
Yes, God.
I just ask that you would just come right now.
Yes, God.
And you allow your Spirit just to bring revelation to each person that is listening to
God.
this podcast. And that each person that is being able to see in their hearts different things in their lives, desires, convictions, confusion, that they'd be able to identify.
Yes, God.
That's the word right now. It's identification.
Yeah.
Identification. Identifying good things, bad things, personal, like that have been be able to identify the things in their heart, to be able to lay it before the altar, so that the loving Father can sit with them. And may the glory of the Father be able to take that identity into their hands and place his identity that he has back into their hands right now. I just pray for those that are searching right now for who they are and whose they are, that they'd be able to recognize their loving Father. They'd be able to recognize that if they're not where they're supposed to be, that they would stop going there, and that they would that it would be better to be nowhere than the wrong place.
Come on.
And that then Spirit, that you would lead them, Holy Spirit, to the right place.
Yes, God.
I just feel like there's somebody watching right now that they have identity confusion, and if you ask the loving Father who He made you to be, He will show you like a mirror in a bathroom.
Come on, God.
He's just, all you have to do is ask Him to show you who He made you to be,
Yes,
and
God.
He will show you.
Thank you, God.
Thank you, Dad, that you love us so much, that you don't make mistakes.
Yeah, amen.
So I just pray, Father, that you would continue to pour yourself into our lives through your Holy Spirit. In Jesus' name. Amen.
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 Guys, thank you so much for watching this episode of Iris After Hours. We'll be back with Todd in another episode really, really soon to talk about missions and business and all the other amazing stuff. So we love you guys. Leave your comments below, and we'll see you next time on Iris After Hours. Love you guys. Ciao.
Bye-bye.
This podcast is presented by Iris Global. For more information or to support the work of Iris Global, please visit us online at irisglobal.org.
Or to speak to someone at Iris Global, call our office at 530-255-2077.
Iris Global is an international Christian mission and relief organisation with a focus on working amongst the poorest of the poor and those most in need.
We hope this podcast has inspired your journey. Thanks for joining us for Iris After Hours.